Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pestana. And we're here today with special guest, Nancy Colier, who's here to share with us her new book, The Emotionally Exhausted Woman: Why You're Feeling Depleted and How to Get What You Need. So are you tired of being everything for everybody? My goodness, doesn't that sound exhausting? Today, Nancy's here to help us put this in perspective. So Nancy Colier is a psychotherapist, interfaith minister, author, and public speaker. She graduated from the University of Virginia, Columbia University School of Social Work, the Focusing Institute, and One Spirit Interfaith Seminary. Mindfulness and Buddhist practices form the ground of her psychotherapy and spiritually counseling practice. A longtime student of Eastern spirituality and non-duality, Nancy helps to uncover the awareness, joy, and presence that is the ground of well-being. Her work serves to connect clients with their authentic nature and deepest truth. So let's welcome to the show, Nancy Colier.
Thank you for having me. Delighted to be here.
What an honor it is to have you here and to talk about this book. My goodness, what a great title. What inspired you to write this?
Well, it's funny you mentioned the title because when I first started floating this idea to women, when I didn't even have an outline yet, but I was talking about the title, Emotionally Exhausted Woman, every single woman I mentioned it to said, "Oh my God, write the book now. I am ordering it. Can I pre-order it?" There was no outline at the time. But why I wrote this book, I think, is because after nearly 30 years of working as a psychotherapist with women, I was hearing the same story, Marianne, just over and over again, and it felt impossible to not write about it, which was women waking up and realizing that they, first of all, were bone tired from giving. And they knew who they were in all the roles that they played for everyone else in their life, who they were to and for everyone. But they really didn't know who they were for themselves. They knew what everybody else in their life wanted and needed and were so good at filling it and enjoyed filling those wants and needs, but didn't know what they wanted and needed and had lost touch with something authentic inside themselves, which was, wait, what do I want? What do I need? And so many women, when I would ask them, who's taking care of you, they would just break down sobbing. So this giant gap between who we are on the outside and this unexplored space that we are on the inside. And I heard that over and over again in different forms. I mean, one woman, I remember I was very early on as a therapist at the time when you just essentially say nothing. You listen a lot, and then you go through a period where you say a lot and then you say nothing again many years later. But and I remember she came in and she said, she was this terrific woman. She had she's a physician. She had a full practice. She had 5 children. She had a wonderful relationship. And I said to her at one point, I said, what do you want? And she said, I want a bolder and more authentic life. And I remember thinking, I was in my 20s at the time, thinking, wow, this is as bold or authentic a life as I imagine in some way. And then she said something that I thought was probably the first seed for this book, where she said, and I want that bolder and more authentic life, even if it costs me being so damn likable. So the book is a real investigation of this relentless drive we have to be likable and what that costs us and how we abandon ourselves at some point in our life to try to be emotionally safe, which means to be liked and valued and wanted and all of the above. And so how do we come home? How do we work ourselves back to who we really are, not just live on the fumes of being likable?
Well, and you talk about likability in your book, and I'd love for you to expand on that, what that means for our listeners.
Sure. Likability is what it sounds like. It's how do I give you a positive experience of me? How do I make you like me? And we do it so unconsciously. We do it without even knowing we're doing it. And even odder, we do it with people we're never going to see again. One client was in my office the other day and she looked very tired. And when I asked her why, she said, well, I had been on an overnight flight and I didn't want to ask the flight attendant for a pillow. And when I asked her why, she said, well, I didn't want to be a bother. I wanted her to have a good night. It was an overnight flight. And so on and so on. Or we find ourselves, lying to the dog walker that we're going to have a friend stay when we're away, not share that because we want the dog walker to like it. Nothing wrong with the dog walker liking us, or we don't tell our primary doctor that we are seeking a second opinion because we don't want them to feel bad, that we don't trust them. We do this, Marianne, in so many ways. And it's like death by 1,000 omissions. We sell ourselves short. We don't tell the truth. We twist ourselves into all of these different forms because we're really afraid that if we're not likable, we're not going to be safe. We're not going to survive. And we haven't learned how to, and it's not our fault. We're conditioned from the time we're very young, to be selfless, to take care of other people's needs, and that should satisfy us. So our entire focus is outward. Do you like me? And I like me when you like me. And what the book is about is learning to trust that you don't have to give yourself away. You don't have to choose to have relationship with others over having a relationship with yourself, that you can be real and related. You can find a new model for what relationship with other people looks like that's based on who you actually are, not just who will make them happy. So it's really about coming home to our real vitality and what's true, not just what works, but what's true. But first, we have to be aware of how much we're selling ourselves short, not telling the truth, twisting our truths around, all to have it all go well and have you like me.
In your book, I was real impressed. You talk about hypervigilance, and my goodness, I could actually see that. I was like, ooh, I need to look at that. And you have these points that make just so perfect sense. And we're always in this kind of state of hypervigilance.
We are. And part of the cost of this belief that safety means likability is that it builds this relationship with ourselves that's really unfriendly and suspicious. So we become an entity. Our emotional experience, our thoughts, feelings, truths become something we have to manage. We have to be very careful about. We have to monitor. We have to be hypervigilant about, what truths are coming up, because that truth might threaten my likability, my being desirable to the other. So I'm always monitoring what parts of myself can I welcome, what parts can I not welcome. And at the same time, I'm using all my energy to manage and police the other person's perception of me. So I've got two things going on that have nothing to do with what's authentic, which is, wait, what's coming up in me? And, is that going to be lovable? Is that going to be acceptable? Am I going to be rejected for that? And then also let me micromanage and be hypervigilant about how are you receiving this, right? So if I have a truth that maybe is unwanted, I've got to soften that, doctor that, twist that, maybe just get rid of it altogether, definitely apologize for it. But I'm always trying to use my energy to control and manage your perception of me so that I can have a positive perception. So all this energy is going out towards the management of self and management of others' experience, which imagine if we had that energy back to just live in the truth. This is what's so. And if I live in the truth and I present it respectfully and kindly, what is so for me, not what works for you necessarily, but I get all that energy back. And, I'm not going to lie, we give up some cash and prizes sometimes when we do that. Some people don't like it. But we get something so much richer and so much more empowering, which is we are standing in our own shoes. And so one of the things I teach in the book is in this new model for love, I'm responsible for my truth, but I'm not responsible for the results of that. So if you are uncomfortable with my truth and it doesn't make you feel good about you, I care about that discomfort you feel, but it's not mine to feel guilty about. I didn't cause it, and it's not mine to fix. So it's breaking this, it's my fault default that if you're not having a positive experience of me, I'm doing something aggressive to you, right? So we have to learn as women, and so many of us, women, powerful women, really women in wonderful lives, that it's to break this codependent model. It doesn't mean just in intimate relationships. I mean, with everyone, that we're not just responsible for our truth, we're responsible for having you enjoy our truth, our thoughts, feelings, and sensations, what we want. So there's a lot in the book about discovering, first of all, this big blank space of what I want, because I've never asked myself. I've only been interested in what you want. First, starting to bring back that still small voice, invite want back into a conversation, and then be able to stand in the silence and stand in our shoes when, wow, you don't like that truth of mine. Okay. Maybe I'm not guilty for that. All of these lessons that so many women may not be aware that we need to learn. We're aware we're depleted. We're aware we're stretched anorexically thin. We're aware we're overwhelmed and maybe resentful from giving and giving and giving and not feeling like we receive what we give. But underneath it are all these deeper lessons we need to learn to regain our vitality. And of course, just as a last thing, we're given this answer, this sort of capitalistic answer: go get another massage, go get a mani-pedi, wonderful things to do, but they have nothing to do with why so many women feel emotionally exhausted. We're doing something deeper that's not working for us. And it starts really young. And then it's met by this cultural narrative of the perfect woman and how we're supposed to be and who not to be, right? All the things we know not to be, to not be cast out. So it's complicated, it's deep, and it's not about, going to another sound bath and wrapping ourselves up in cashmere wraps.
And while that sounds nice, that's not getting to the core of the problem.
That's right. And it has nothing to do with how we give ourselves away on a moment-to-moment basis, really from this early sense that our best chance of taking care of ourselves is abandoning ourselves and figuring out who's wanted and who do I need to be and what that costs us in the profound losses in our connection with ourselves. And when we're out of touch with ourselves and spending all this energy on taking care of everyone else, subtly and not so subtly. And we've lost touch with our own wisdom, our own, what we want, right? We're set up for depletion. We're set up for burnout. We're set up for exhaustion.
Well, it seems like it's this cycle that women have been taught to be a part of. So how do we get to this place where we can start just deciding what it is that we want or who we are when we might not even be able to know how to identify that?
So it all starts with awareness. We have to see, how are we rolling in the world? How do we actually behave? What are our habitual patterns? Where do we give ourselves away? Where are we tucking ourselves away? Where are we ignoring ourselves, betraying ourselves? It all starts with awareness. It's a very important part. Nothing can happen without that. Then we have to get more embodied. We run around as little floating heads connected to nothing. And so we have this idea, we should self-care. Are you self-caring enough? It turns into this giant should. Another way we can fail, well, you're not taking enough walks. So we have to get embodied. And by embodied, I mean, we have to drop down and feel this thing we're doing, which is to be abandoning ourselves, to be disinterested in our own experience, turning away from, well, what's true for you? What do you need? What do you want? That has to go on in the heart and the gut, the sense of that. That's the second pillar, is embodiment. Can't just be an idea what we're talking about. And then we get into some of the changes in choices and behaviors, as in this split between should and want. As women, we live by shoulds. Who should we be as a mother, as a friend, as a wife, as a woman? Most of our life is dictated by should. So we start to just even invite want into our life. When we're making a decision, we say, hey, is this coming from should or want? And most of when we start inviting want back into the picture, they're really shoulds masquerading as want. So we watch out for that parade to come through. But then we actually insert the question, what do you want? Hey, sweetheart, speaking to ourselves, what would you want in this situation? It is a question that we do not ask ourselves. And then sometimes we can even give ourselves a little bit of the want. And we start to notice, what does it feel like when I'm receiving what I want? Not what I should. What does it feel like when I'm doing what I want? When all of that wanting energy starts to come into our life, what does that feel like? So we start to notice living from want and asking questions like, what am I afraid of if I lived my life from want? We build up all these narratives. If I live from want, it's indulgent. Who am I to get to live from want? Nobody gets to live from want. Or if I live from want, I don't know, I'd end up in Hawaii opening a tiki bar, laying on the couch all day, eating bonbons. Probably not true. But we built all of these, fearful narratives to protect this living by should. So the want versus should distinction starting to insert more wants. And when we have to do a should, being kind to ourselves. Should we want to do this? No, it's a should. I don't want to do my taxes, but maybe I can be compassionate with myself when I do them. It's not a want, and you have to do it. Both ends. Then we move into the pillar, which is breaking this it's my fault default. If I come home from dinner and my husband hasn't come home from work and my husband hasn't made dinner and I'm famished and it's his night to make dinner, I don't need to assume I did something to him that morning I'm not aware of that hurt him. I don't need to assume that because my friend is being quieter than normal, I must have unconsciously been insulting. we have this tendency as women to assume responsibility when anything in the world is not right. It's a kind of to assert control in part, right? If we did it, we can control it, but it becomes a kind of almost negative narcissism. All roads lead back to our failings. So there are all sorts of ways that we start to break that, because something's not okay means one thing. It's not okay, and we don't know why. And we start there. And then really one of the biggest ones that I work with women really intensely on and talk a lot about in the book is learning to tell the truth. It sounds like the most basic skill, but I mean telling the truth and not apologizing in 1,000 ways for it, not rolling it back, not justifying, learning to tell the truth and then close our mouth and not assume responsibility for the other person's experience of that. We care about it and we're willing to hear that, of course, and feel not good if they don't like it, and not distort our truth to make that okay. But what all of this, Marianne, sort of drizzles down into is a change in our fundamental relationship with ourselves. So we're not at war with who we really are. We are welcoming the whole miracle and catastrophe that we all are. All of our parts are welcome, not just the parts that gain us favor, right? Welcome that anger, welcome that moodiness, welcome that wish to be successful, welcome your competitiveness, and all your lovely, empathic, giving, selfless, generous, loving woman qualities. All of it is welcome. That's what all of this really ends up being about, a healing of how we've been taught to be in relationship with ourselves.
It seems a lot of us will kind of mirror this negative talk that we hear from other people. You're too negative, you're too difficult to work with, or too self-centered, or whatever the case is, as we try to take care of ourselves in many ways. So how do we make shifts to move those from these disempowering just phrases and discussions to make it something that's building up our self-worth?
So you're spot on there. When we're learning who's the perfect woman, what we're really learning is who's the imperfect woman, the woman not to be. It's funny. Social media tells us, you be you, right? You be you, do you. Be careful. Be careful, because there are so many pitfalls, right? Selfish, needy, difficult, demanding, loud, bossy, controlling, aggressive. What else? Complicated, emotional, hysterical, high maintenance, you name it, overbearing, a control freak, a man hater, well, all the things we're told not to be. So we have to recognize that there is deep conditioning to tell us who we are allowed to be and who we're not allowed to be. Deep, deep conditioning. So what we want to start doing is catching, when am I abandoning myself and adjusting and not telling the truth, right? Not standing in my own shoes, betraying myself to some degree, so as not to be judged. One of these things, if the toast comes and I've ordered it with no butter, and the toast shows up glistening with butter, and I leave it there because I don't want to be too neurotic, I don't want to be perceived as high maintenance, I don't want to be perceived as crazy, all the things that, we get when we say, hey, I actually asked for it dry, right? So every time we do that, it's not about the toast. It's about, I did that to avoid a judgment, which is not fair. I asked for it. You didn't deliver it. And now I have to throw myself under the bus because I can't tolerate that perception of me. That's the cycle we want to break and bring consciousness into. What happens if I kindly and respectfully say, I actually ordered it dry. Would you mind, could you take this back? Right? And bring me what I ordered. So it sounds so tiny, but these sorts of syndromes show up in tiny ways. We do an enormous amount of twisting and turning ourselves into pretzels to not be perceived negatively. And that is, dare I say it, a bit part of the patriarchal system that keeps us hamstrung and living in what I call a likability cave. So again, this management of your experience of me, even when it's completely unjustified, right? So awareness, and practicing in these little ways. Can I risk being perceived as that and still know my own worth and be loyal and be my own ride or die, be on my own team, even though you're perceiving me that way?
Well, Nancy, I just felt like your book, The Emotionally Exhausted Woman, was such a impactful and profound read. Where can our listeners connect with you and be part of your community and learn more about your work?
Absolutely. So the book is everywhere books are sold, Amazon and everywhere else. My website is nancycolier.com, and I spell it with one L, which I always say. And I love to talk to readers and join my mailing list. And if you love the book, put up a review on Amazon. It helps other people know about the book. I really appreciate that. And I give workshops all over the country, and we'll be at Omega in August, just left Kripalu. So come and bring your voice to this is a conversation that we're co-creating as women. And we're all in this conversation and we all experience it. So write me an email, go to the website, buy the book, and let's continue the dialogue.
Well, Nancy, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
My pleasure. Thank you. Always a delight to be here.
Well, thank you, Nancy. It has been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your new book, The Emotionally Exhausted Woman: Why You're Feeling Depleted and How to Get What You Need. The Emotionally Exhausted Woman's available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all indie retailers. And remember, support our indie bookstores. If you don't see it on the shelf, just ask for them to order it. We're going to pause here for a quick moment. I'd like to thank all of our sponsors that are coming right up. Please take a moment to visit them, learn more about their work, and be part of their community. We'll be right back after these messages.
Are you a coffee lover who wants to make a difference? Look no further than Fire Department Coffee, a veteran-owned business that gives back to support first responders in need. Each batch of coffee is freshly roasted right here in the USA by a dedicated team of first responders and coffee experts. So when you enjoy a cup of Fire Department coffee, you're not only drinking high-quality coffee, you're supporting members of your community. Start your day with a coffee that gives back. Visit firedepartmentcoffee.com. That's fire, DEPT, coffee.com.
Are you looking to untangle life's riddles? Discover the profound teachings of Dr. Shai Tabali, renowned philosopher, best-selling author, and your guide to self-empowerment. With methods that harmonize psychological and spiritual principles, Dr. Tabali's wisdom offers a pathway to holistic transformation. Take that first step today and join thousands globally and embrace the journey to higher consciousness. Visit shaitabali.com, that's SHAITUBALI.com now.
Hello, Dr. Cutler here. Do you experience bloating, heartburn, food craving, bowel irregularity, food sensitivities, weight issues? If you do not digest your food, you may be deficient in macronutrients, which your body needs for optimal health. DrEllenCutler.com teaches that this is an enzyme deficiency. I believe the most important supplement is a full-spectrum digestive enzyme, Dr. Ellen's Way Digestive Enzymes. Hear more about it at DrEllenCutler.com.
Are you chasing profitability yet losing fulfillment? Let me introduce you to your solution, the Relaunch Company. I'm Hillary DeCesar, an entrepreneurial performance coach, fearless leader of the Relaunch Company, here to help put the pedal to the metal and relaunch your business your way. Visit www.therelaunch.com. Take the free quiz to learn 3 steps towards waving goodbye to burnout and hello to success.
The book Terminal Cancer is a Misdiagnosis, authored by Danny Carroll, is on sale at Amazon now. Licensed psychologist and psychotherapist Tessa Antia-John-Guerra commented, "This is one of the most empowering books on the topic of cancer you will ever read." Award-winning author T.L. Needham commented, "This recommended book can be understood by anyone seeking answers, hope, and alternatives to a terminal diagnosis. Buy it now on Amazon.com.
Are you feeling disconnected from your life and your body as a woman? Do you feel numb emotionally and/or sexually and just not sure how to feel really alive again, or maybe for the first time? Are you struggling with body and self-acceptance, especially during menopause? If you'd like to reclaim your feminine and learn more about woman and gynecology and how it can help empower your life, contact Gina Cloud at www.ginacloud.com.
I'd like to thank Jason Eastwood at Guitarfulness for sharing his inspiring music and talent with us. His music is known worldwide for cultivating atmospheres of harmony, inner peace, and clarity. Visit Jason's website at guitarfulness.com. Join his newsletter, be part of his community, and download his music. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.